A law was being broken, and we knew it.
I'm shocked. I'm truly shocked.
I just put my hands up and prayed that he wouldn't shoot me.
He wasn't arrested and charged until we started asking questions.
People will be outraged when they hear this.
Everything, it came from your report.
Coming forward was the right thing to do because this can't ever happen again.
If it hadn't been for Channel 2, I might not be sitting here now.
As we close out 2021, another challenging year on top of what seemed like an impossible year, we want to reflect on all the changes we here at CBS 2 have been a part of. Thanks for joining us. I'm Erica Sargent.
And I'm Brad Edwards. The CBS 2 investigators have a reputation of getting results, changing lives, and changing laws through our investigations. This year, there's a lot to report. We first told you about this story in 2020. A law was being broken, and we knew it. But for more than a month, we were met with finger-pointing and pushback all over why the most intimate case details of child sex assault victims were public. We believed we shouldn't have had access to that information, and we were right. Finally, this year, some accountability. In your tenure, would you say this is your most significant achievement?
I would say yes.
That achievement, these two state statutes, laws that protect the identities of sexual assault victims, firsts of their kind in the country.
Victims have been victims, they've been traumatized by this, and I think it's important that we protect that identity.
But these laws first began as a CBS 2 investigation. While researching a different topic, at the public kiosk at the Daily Center,
Okay, I'm ready to print.
we were able to get unfettered access
Hi, I'm just looking to print out documents from the computers.
to child sex assault files
Thank you.
and print them. Little kids' dates of birth, addresses, dastardly details. Our findings?
Appalled.
I'm shocked. I'm truly shocked.
I mean, people will be outraged when they hear this.
They were. So was the new clerk.
It's my number one priority here when I first got here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
In late 2020, Clerk Iris Martinez took over one of the largest county circuit court systems in the country.
We're pulling up the case.
In charge of logistics, hardware, software, paperwork, decades of court case files. Our findings, we had no business finding. There was already a 1986 law on the books preventing such access to children's files, but it was vague and ignored. Outgoing Clerk Dorothy Brown not only denied responsibility, but she only began concealing the documents when State's Attorney Kim Foxx threatened to sue her. We found out the problem was exponentially worse.
Thank you so much. Take care.
A law was being broken, and we knew it.
After viewing our stories
They did not fix it.
and launching her own internal inquiry, Clerk Martinez teamed up with a trio of legislators, formulated, passed, and got the new laws signed. Stronger legislation for children and a new law for adult victims.
Those laws will take effect on the 1st of the new year, and it will take many more months for Cook County to conceal the remaining 70,000 adult cases. The new laws say any outside parties wanting access will have to request it from a judge, who will then decide whether to temporarily unseal the file. There are also new safeguards in place for anyone requesting copies of records like these to prevent them from ending up in the wrong hands. We'll follow up to make sure all the counties are doing their due diligence.
A 10-year-old girl sexually abused by multiple men. Those men, known to police, remain free until the CBS 2 investigators got involved. Our Dave Savini revealed how the system failed to protect her despite years of warnings and calls for help.
She should be playing with dolls right now. She should be going to birthday parties right now.
Instead, a 10-year-old girl whose face we are not showing and some details we are not sharing for her protection was locked in a psychiatric hospital while her abusers remained free for months.
We have to get them off the street.
Including this Riverdale man, 37-year-old Samuel Brown. He is accused of meeting the girl online and taking her to a Chicago area garage in May of 2020 and sexually assaulting her.
So when you see and you read about something like this happening to a little girl, I'm just as outraged and frustrated as anybody else.
A total of 5 men are accused of assaulting the girl since she was 7, but none of them were charged with a felony until our CBS 2 investigators exposed a pattern of police failing to put the men behind bars. The CBS 2 investigators obtained police reports involving 5 of the girl's accused abusers, and in at least 3 of the cases, rape kits were performed.
So in this case, involving this child, the results of any rape kits performed have not been brought to the state's attorney's office yet.
Not for filing felony charges.
But then suddenly, the very next day after this interview, Chicago police arrested Samuel Brown on felony charges for sexually assaulting the little girl. A rape kit done on the girl in May matched Brown's DNA. Why was Brown's DNA in the system? He was already a registered child sex offender. You'd think with that key evidence, CPD would have immediately arrested Brown once they had a match. But CPD sat on the results, allowing him to remain free for 4 months.
Dave's investigation revealed that when police found the little girl at the Grand Motel in October, they took her home instead of a hospital to be examined. Because of his reporting, CPD is reviewing how their department handles these types of crimes.
Pass or fail, her livelihood depended on it. And it was all in the hands of a state inspector caught on camera groping her at her doggy daycare business. Chicago police were investigating the case for months, but just 1 week after CBS 2 investigator Megan Hickey broke the story, the inspector was fired.
Molly Bear.
Inspired by dogs, connected by people. So I always say that dogs are like an icebreaker.
Leave it. Good boy.
Leah Bindig started her doggy daycare boarding and grooming business all by herself in 2016 with a giant loan, a graveyard shift as a Lyft driver to make ends meet, and a vision.
I love the fact that when we make a dog happy, that makes the owner happy.
Good job, Lex. Good girl.
Now she has 3 locations and counting, including this one in Bucktown. Because she provides overnight boarding, she's required to have an annual inspection by the Illinois Department of Agriculture. Cook County has just 1 inspector, this guy, Jose Guillen. And according to personnel records obtained by the CBS 2 investigators, he's had this job since 2014.
And he is the man that you've been dealing with?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. I didn't understand why.
Leah's first encounter was a surprise inspection in 2018, but what should have taken just a few minutes took much, much longer. Because Leah says Guillen started getting personal during their inspection, asking if she was single and whether she might be free to meet up.
I knew that there was a line being crossed, but I was repeatedly reminded by him that he was the only inspector.
And before she got the pass, he asked for a hug.
And one of those hugs that all women know are very uncalled for and inappropriate. I didn't know what to do. So just let it happen and be over. Sorry.
If this story sounds unbelievable, it suddenly became more believable in 2019 when Guillen came in for the next annual inspection. And their encounter was, by chance, captured on the store's surveillance cameras.
And I have a laptop, and I was showing him, turning the laptop to show him the vaccination records for certain dogs. And he felt that he needed to see them on the other side of the counter.
And he's just moving closer to you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Surveillance video shows Guillen inching closer until they were touching.
Then he starts putting his hand on my shoulder, on my arm, on my back. I'm being inspected. We're not on a date.
Video shows that Leah started backing into the corner, pressed up against the water cooler.
I was literally told we had everything we needed. Showed him where we had it posted that people should have vaccinations on file and stuff like that. And it should have been done. Right. Why was there 40 to 50 more minutes that he stayed here? He asked to see a photo of me in a bikini.
He asked to see a photo of you?
Yes. Do I have to show you that in order to pass and run my business that I've worked so hard for?
And then Leah says he requested another hug. At one point, the video shows his hand moving from her arm to her rear end.
Why does the state inspector have their hands on me? He's holding a clipboard as he's hugging me, and it's not signed off yet that we passed. And then so what do I do? What do I do? Tell him to stop?
she was placed in a position that nobody should be placed in, which is submit to battery or risk losing your inspection.
Dan Lynch represents Leah in a federal lawsuit filed against the Department of Agriculture and Jose Guillen. The suit alleges that he treated her differently because of her sex and used his position of power to take advantage of her.
The stakes were high for her then. They remain high for her now, but she's been brave enough and she's been able to find the courage to come forward for the reason that she told you.
I don't want this to happen to my staff members. What if I can't always be present for an inspection? Oh my God, is this happening to other women that own dog daycare and boarding facilities? He's the only inspector?
So what about a criminal investigation? Leah went to Chicago police in March, told them about the surveillance video, and filed these complaints. After we started asking questions, Leah's attorney was told that a new detective had just been assigned to the case. We asked for the original detective's investigative notes through the Freedom of Information Act, but we're still waiting. We also tried to speak with Guillen. Multiple attempts to contact him.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Went unanswered.
Come here, little baby. Hi, little redhead.
While it was a difficult and painful decision to come forward, Leah says she's glad she did it because she hopes that if there are other women who have been victimized, they might have the courage to come forward too.
Coming forward was the right thing to do because this can't ever happen again, ever. Ever.
Megan Hickey, CBS 2 investigators.
Again, that inspector was fired after Megan's report.
Since then, several other women reached out to Megan with similar complaints. They agreed to an exclusive interview with her, revealing a disturbing pattern that went unchecked until we got involved. You can watch their stories online on our website.
Feds called it a first. Used vaccine vials for sale on the web.
CBS 2 investigator Dorothy Tucker exposed it happening in our community, sold right out in the open by someone who should know better.
This investigation did not start off like most. I didn't receive a tip from a viewer or a call from a source. I attended an educational vaccine webinar hosted by a drug company that is now a household name, Pfizer. Things got interesting when someone at Pfizer started talking about fraud.
One of the things that's important for states to ensure is that the empty vaccine vials and the packaging are destroyed. If they're just thrown simply in the trash, people will, unfortunately, nefarious people will take them out.
And probably sell them, was my guess. I was right. I got the goods, the vials, right here. How we got them took us down a mysterious path that involved researching records, interpreting text messages, hidden cameras. But it all started online. eBay, used empty vaccine vials, $35, 28 sold, 9 left. On Craigslist, same picture, same price. And the seller in Winnetka. His name, a mystery, but he shared his number and via text he's anxious to sell. If you pay me by Zelle and provide me your address for shipping costs of $3, I can send it to you via first-class delivery. We don't want it shipped. We want to meet this mystery man in person. In another text, he offers to bring the vials to work and meet us at St. Joseph Hospital.
Are you the one the vials?
Yes.
With hidden cameras rolling.
So how many people like me are there out there wanting to have these?
Oh my God, it's crazy amount. Yeah, because everybody wants a souvenir and everything.
Souvenir? But this souvenir in the wrong hands could be deadly.
They should not be sold.
Michael Alfonso, investigator with Homeland Security.
We don't want somebody to take a vial and put some type of substance in it and sell it as if it's a legitimate vaccine.
Fake vaccines are already being sold on the dark web for hundreds of dollars, an attractive offer in the international market.
The Pfizer one, by the way, is getting harder to come by.
Back to the guy selling us the empty vials on the open web. He seemed to know a lot about vaccines.
Pfizer comes like, half a vial full. You have to put saline in it.
And then came the bombshell.
Oh, I'm in the pharmacy department.
You heard it. He works in the pharmacy.
In what capacity?
I just basically do the tech work out there, like general tech work.
So we hand over the cash, he hands over the bag.
So what do you plan to do with it? You just hang on to it?
Our plan? To learn everything we can about who's selling empty vaccine vials online. On LinkedIn, we found a pharmacy director at St. Joseph named Gia Lee. He lives in Winnetka. Remember, the Craigslist post was from a seller in Winnetka. And Gia Lee from Winnetka has been a registered pharmacist in Illinois since 1997. But we never found a Gia Lee at St. Joseph. So this LinkedIn page must be a fake. We ultimately found a pharmacist named Gia Lee 3.5 miles away at Thorick Memorial Hospital. We snapped a grainy photo of our seller entering Thorick. Inside, when we asked for Lee, we learned he goes by John Lee.
He's downstairs.
Downstairs, another surprise. John Lee is not just any pharmacist, he's the boss, the director of pharmacy at Thorick, which may explain his response when we told him who we were.
Oh, okay. So basically, you say I'm in trouble now?
We don't know how Lee got his hands on the empty vaccine vials, but we know he wasn't supposed to have them. This is what should happen to those vials. Tossed into a medical waste container, like they're doing at Mount Sinai Hospital. What's the goal here?
No one can retrieve the vaccine from there, or the vial from there.
The container's contents eventually crushed and destroyed, but Lee kept the vials.
Well, I put on Craigslist, but I didn't sell online, you know. Well, I mean, just Craigslist because they post a lot of things for sale and all.
He made $600 is what he wrote in a text, but he claims it went to charity.
You know, I just thought since it's an empty vial, I did not think it was a big deal.
But it is a big deal. It violates federal guidelines, state rules, and Board of Pharmacy regulations. And if you think a director of pharmacy should have known the guidelines, you're right.
Yes, they definitely should.
That from the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy.
The pharmacists, if they were even to say that they didn't know the protocol, then I would seriously call their bluff and say that that's not true.
Even more troubling, Lee advertised the vials as empty and sterilized. But look closely. There is liquid in both vials we bought from Lee. Pharmaceutical experts tell us if it's the life-saving vaccine, there's enough solution in the Moderna vial for 2 doses.
Do you see the solution in both of them?
Yes, I do.
We met up with Homeland Security.
It'll be tested.
To turn the vials over.
We'll find a determination of that.
When we get those answers, we'll follow up.
Thank you for the vial.
Thorick Hospital said they took appropriate disciplinary action. In a separate email, CEO Edward Budd added it was an isolated incident by an individual who expressed remorse and regret.
There's a box for Black, for white, Native American, Asian, and Latino. But for Arab Americans, no box. That issue at the center of a CBS 2 investigation in May, revealing how city, county, and state agencies were failing Arab Americans.
And as the life-saving vaccine was rolling out, that lack of official data made it difficult for community groups to get proper funding and convince Arab Americans to get their shots. But CBS 2's Dorothy Tucker set out on a mission to change that. Spoiler alert, she did.
Are you vaccinated?
I am vaccinated.
As co-founder of a community organization, the Arab American Family Services, Aitidel Shalabi got the vaccine early in January. When it came to race, what did you check?
White.
Are you white?
I am not white.
So why did you check white?
And that was the only choice I had.
What's that like, not to have that box?
It hurts.
Nira Mintaha is also a co-founder of the organization.
It's frustrating. It tells you that you don't exist.
That frustration was the crux of a CBS 2 investigation in May, when we first broke the story of how a community of nearly 150,000 people in Illinois was among the hardest hit by COVID-19, yet the deaths were not being tracked by the city, county, or state.
I wish she's here. I wish she didn't leave us. We miss her.
We discovered our Abu Layla's mom was listed as other on the Cook County Medical Examiner's report and showed where every other race is counted, but there is no box for Arabs.
I feel like we're not noticed, or like we feel like we're left behind.
And when the life-saving vaccine was rolling out, Arabs still weren't being counted. That just made it harder to convince some in the community to get the vaccine, that it was critical to saving lives.
This matters to us. This being counted and being part of the larger community is important.
So we wanted to know why Arabs weren't being counted, and more importantly, would state officials finally make a change? The push for answers started with this email on April 21st, sent to the state, asking that very question, why? The immediate response from the governor's office, we're working on it. 8 days later, we're told the MENA category, Middle Eastern North African, has now been added. Only when we checked the state's dashboard used by the public to track vaccine distribution, it wasn't there. We kept checking all of May, most of June, nothing. On June 28th, the governor had a press conference.
Are you going to keep your promise to the Arab American community to add that designation?
Well, I certainly will talk to IDPH. I don't know where that is in process, but we'll make sure to get back to you about it.
They did. This is what the community was waiting on.
Oh, the Middle Eastern North Africa. Woo! I'm sorry, I had to see it with my eye. I was like, yes, congratulations.
Finally, a box for those who identify as Middle Eastern or North African. MENA.
Just seeing this is absolutely wonderful.
Keep in mind the state health department had been collecting vaccination data for months, adding up to millions.
And then you're looking at over 7 million.
But Arabs weren't added to the mix until late April.
I don't see our lime green in the chart.
So compared to other groups,
White 7.7.
So how many people put Asian too?
the numbers of Arabs vaccinated was low.
Very low.
Absolutely,
And we know that they're not accurate.
Right.
Because we know, as Neriman said, we did more than that in our office alone. We did more than that in registering people. But we had to put white because it wasn't there previous.
Still,
it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
It's the first step to many more steps of being counted and visible and recognized as a community.
The goal now to educate the community about the new box and be counted as Arab Americans for the first time in Illinois history.
We are visible now. We exist.
Our reporting and relentless hounding pushed the state to create a new category for vaccine data. Now the local Arab community is using our reporting to push the state to create a category for Arabs on all forms, not just ones relating to COVID-19.
They're still in the early stages, but we, of course, will continue to follow up.
Now to a CBS 2 investigation that's gotten national attention. We believed her and told her story before we saw the video. The city even tried to get a federal judge to shut us down, but we bulldogged it through.
And we're glad we did. We reported on Anjanette Young's bad raid last year. And Miss Young's case is emblematic of the pattern we've exposed time and time again. This year, because of the efforts of the CBS 2 investigators, Chicago police are now making changes in what happens before, during, and after a search warrant is executed. Here's our Dave Savini.
Anjanette Young demands to see the warrant that led to the invasion by dozens of male officers into her apartment in February of 2019. Her raid was one of 50-plus botched raids uncovered during our now 3-year-long probe.
I just put my hands up and prayed that he wouldn't shoot me.
Dozens of people, including children, had guns pointed at them or were handcuffed because police failed to do the proper research, failed to verify addresses, and just took the word of paid informants in getting their warrants. In the case of Anjanette Young, the target police were looking for lived in another unit in her apartment complex. She had never even heard of him, but she was the one who ended up held in handcuffs at gunpoint. A dozen police body cameras trained on her the whole time.
Do you remember that moment when that rifle was pointed right at you?
I believe that he would have shot me if I'd have done anything different than just stand there with my hands up.
These children,
how old are you, Deviana?
6,
have had their front doors broken down. And guns pointed at them, their siblings, and parents.
Have you ever been afraid of the dark before this incident?
No.
You are watching children whose homes were wrongly raided, being deposed by lawyers defending the city of Chicago.
Still hurts to watch. It's so disheartening for me to hear that these children are being,
Are you doing okay?
Traumatized over and over again.
Can you take a break if that's okay?
Now that these families are suing the city, the children are required to sit through lengthy depositions.
It continues to cause systematic harm to the individual.
And cost taxpayers too. The CBS 2 investigators found since 2015, the city has paid outside law firms more than $2.5 million in fees for wrong raid cases alone.
Can we please take a break if that's okay?
A lot of these cases happened before my incident. I've gotten more resolution than they have, and it's just not fair.
Chicago City Council recently approved a $2.9 million settlement for Ms. Young. Some aldermen say it's not enough. We've asked the mayor and Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown how they'll discipline officers who violate these new rules. So far, no specifics.
In Young's case, Chicago police did take the involved officers off the streets pending a COPA investigation. But that was only after we aired the body camera footage nearly 2 years after the botched raid. This November, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability recommended a minimum 1-year suspension for 2 sergeants connected to Young's raid.
The CBS 2 investigators have repeatedly exposed flaws in the disciplinary action of the Chicago Police Department, a la this next story. We first exposed Officer James Hunt bragging on camera that he kills expletives. He was supposed to be suspended for a year, but his name showed up again, this time on a community safety team.
This is CPD Officer James Hunt, hired in 2013. Hunt, here on duty March 9th, is of note because of what he did 980 days prior.
Are you kidding?
Officer Hunt went viral in 2018.
Right here.
Yes, correct.
For this encounter,
Have a seat, brother.
he ultimately falsely arrested Kenneth Lee, who'd eventually win a $100,000 taxpayer-funded settlement. It started.
Now I see you accelerated, so I asked him, I get to the grass, I said, what, you trying to hit me?
And you just tried to hit me with the car?
And he replied, no.
Officer Hunt followed Lee into the city's Martin Luther King Jr. Park.
That's when he said, I have a Snapchat too. I said, no, you don't. He said,
Yeah, dude, it's called mama.
and he said, it's called off your mom.
I already said it.
Officer Hunt's troubling track record includes 24 complaints made by civilians, 24 that we know of, including allegations of false arrest, verbal abuse, racist language. He also ranks at the top, almost literally, when it comes to CPD officers who report using force against civilians. At least 28 times since 2016. That's 5th most of all 12,000 cops on the force.
All right, stop talking to me now.
9.5 months after this now infamous encounter, COPA, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, recommended Hunt be suspended for a full year. That's now coming up on 2 years ago. Yet he continued working here last summer. A summer of great tumult here in Chicago and across America. CPD formed a new unit, one key goal, improving community trust. It'd be called the Community Safety Team. Among its founding members, viral cop James Hunt. That new crew announced in grand fashion.
But I am happy here to unveil actually. We're calling them the Community Safety Team, CST. Every week, CFT team will partner with local block clubs, faith-based organizations.
And joining the Community Safety Team, Officer James Hunt, whom, remember, COPA cited for abject failure to extend human dignity to every citizen in the Lee case.
This is a diverse team that is reflective of the communities that they serve.
Are you kidding?
And as CBS 2 investigators learned, that's not an empty threat.
Chicago police shoot and kill a man suspected in a shooting in the East Chatham neighborhood.
In 2014, Officer Hunt was a CPD rookie when he killed 17-year-old Deshaun Pittman. Pittman's grandmother.
Who shoots a human being like this?
At the time, Hunt was still within his 18-month probationary period. Hunt said Pittman aimed in his direction after Pittman shot and killed another teen. Hunt was the only officer to shoot. Hunt shot Pittman 10 times.
Did they ever say which bullet actually killed him?
It was Hunt's word versus a dead teen. The shooting was deemed justified. as initially were all but one of the hundreds of CPD officer-involved shootings investigated by COPA's precursor, IPRA.
It's Hunt 11442. There you go.
The CBS 2 investigators have been asking about Officer Hunt now for years. Remember former Superintendent Eddie Johnson?
Officer Hunt.
So it would kind of be inappropriate for me to comment.
Remember former interim Superintendent Charlie Beck?
There is an officer in your department named James Hunt.
That investigation is working its way to me, and I will make a decision.
And remember the former U.S. attorney who wanted to be mayor, now Mayor Lightfoot? CBS 2 investigators exposed white CPD officer James A. Hunt.
I have serious questions for the superintendent why that officer wasn't stripped of his police powers.
The optics on this just don't look good.
From what I've seen from Channel 2's reports, it looks terrible.
Professor Richard Schack, retired CPD and the chair of the Department of Criminal Justice at National Louis University.
In your opinion, should he be on that team?
Based on what I've seen in news reports, I don't think so. It seems like that if you've got somebody that yells a lot, you don't want him to work in a quiet zone.
A quick review. On July 3rd, 2018, Hunt said,
I killed.
On April 17th, 2019, COPA recommends he be suspended for a year. March 9th, 2021, still working, now on the community safety team.
Whose mission is not only to reduce crime, but to build and strengthen community relationships citywide.
And less than a month after the community safety team formed, August 2020, CBS 2 learned Hunt accused again of an improper stop and racial profiling, though he was not on assignment with the new unit that day. Hunt's working because he appealed his year-long suspension, a suspension the department actually agreed with.
Is this an example of the accountability apparatus failing?
It would appear so.
This is one of the superintendent's big strategies.
We're trying to learn from our mistakes.
If something goes wrong involving Officer James Hunt and his assignment on the community safety team, how are they going to explain that one?
It would be difficult.
Within 48 hours of our inquiry to CPD, higher-ups removed Hunt from the special community safety team. Why is he still working? He's fighting his suspension. It's still in arbitration. No time frame. FOP says no comment. Getting hosed again. Our exclusive series now going on 3 years and counting. It's our investigation into the city's broken water billing system and why the city hasn't done anything to fix it. One of our main protagonists, Vietnam vet and cabbie Rodney Andrews. We've fixed his problems. He got hosed. Then out of the blue, he just got bulldozed. So this is your garage?
Yes, it is. What's left of it?
Rodney Andrews is singing another Somebody Done Somebody Wrong song again.
You think someone's out to get you?
If you were looking at right and wrong, they're all wrong.
Wrong. By the city again. Cliff notes.
So we're just trying to get this guy back into his home. You know him? When we went up to Department of Finance, they sent us down here from the news.
If it hadn't been for Channel 2, I might not be sitting here now.
The CBS 2 investigators.
How you doing? Good. I'm Brad from Channel 2. We're here to pay this man's water bill.
Advocated for Mr. Andrews since 2019.
Boy, it's just a runaround.
We got his bad water bill. Slash. Then.
Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
We got his water back.
It's alive. We got water.
Then you.
How you doing, sir?
Our CBS 2 viewers.
Got appliances for you?
Got appliances for me?
Yes, sir. We're gonna set you up with a brand new kitchen.
Pitched in and fixed his house.
WBBM News Time 108.
All Mr. Andrews ever did is what he was asked, including Vietnam.
1st Infantry Division.
From the bush to the bureaucracy.
What was the harder fight, Vietnam or this fight with the city?
The fight with the city. Right.
And now this.
And my next door neighbor tells me they took your garage.
I see you all the time on the news.
All right, you're the neighbor, right?
Yes. You won't be able to see this on the air.
Bet we will.
They talk to but
but they don't do the work.
In August, the garage got a complaint. It sustained spring storm damage. Mr. Andrews said he'd fix it at an administrative hearing. City said okay.
I'm thinking everything's all right.
He planned in part to fix it, the wall, with these bricks.
The bricks were valuable, but they took the bricks.
They took the bricks. We knew something was off with the demo because we've actually seen it before. In all the cases where we've saved all those people all that money in bad billing, ring it. Now, reverse it. Miss Camilla Batten, like Rodney, was hosed and bulldozed, charged for water for a property that didn't even exist because the city demoed it.
They tore the house down. Sure did, they tore it down.
Miss Batten hadn't lived here in forever. The property got complaints, and in 2014, it was deemed an emergency demolition. 5 years later, 2019, a permit was finally pulled for the half-decade-old emergency demolition.
I got my heart in this here, and
Andrews' garage?
The garage is very important for what I do.
No emergency, no 5 years, no permit even pulled. All we know is the city inspector said the garage qualified for demolition in October. Some 48 hours later, it was gone. And his property wasn't deemed a threat at all. He got a $0 fine at that administrative hearing. The city's not known for $0 fines. The one thing both cases have in common.
Now, they didn't tell me they was going to tear the house down.
I had no idea that this was going to happen.
People get away with whatever they want to.
Miss Batten was getting cancer treatment when her property was bulldozed.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Puff. It was gone away.
We do know one other thing. Mr. Andrews and Miss Batten have never lied to us. We can't say that about the city. We submitted a public records request for Rodney's demolition documents. All we got was this 2-page inspection report, some pics of garage damage, no record of permits, no proof of notification, both of which are legally required. We asked the city for a statement about why it didn't follow its own procedures. After not answering specifics in Statement 1, Statement 2 says they warned him with a posting. Mr. Andrews says he didn't see it, and the city says it was on Mr. Andrews to call within 72 hours and fight it via an administrative hearing. But he already won an administrative hearing in September.
I don't know exactly what to do.
A year ago, we'd just about undone the decades of damage done by the city to Mr. Andrews.
Yeah.
Bill wiped, water on, new appliances.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Now,
Hey, y'all. How you doing?
the city is back,
Not too good. Not too
setting him back again.
You seem defeated.
Just a rough situation.
We can't fit all of the impact of a year's work in our half-hour special, but you can see the extent of our investigations on our website, cbschicago.com.
Or catch the full versions of these stories streaming on our end-of-the-year special on CBSN Chicago. For the full schedule, head over to our social media sites. We'll post it there. For all of us here at CBS Chicago, and on behalf of the CBS 2 investigators, I'm Brad Edwards.
And I'm Erica Sargent. Thanks so much for watching.